Hey everyone, welcome back to school. Today we're going to learn about the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates or carbs for short are one of the three main macronutrients along with the proteins and fats. They are your body's primary source of energy. When you eat carbs, your body breaks them down into glucose, which fuels everything from your brain to your muscles. The general chemical formula for carbohydrate is CXH2OY, where X and Y are numbers. This formula shows that carbohydrates are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. For example, the formula for glucose is C6H12O6. The formula for fructose is C12H22O11. Carbohydrates are usually defined as polyhydroxyaldehydes and ketones are substances that hydrolyze to yield polyhydroxyaldehydes and ketones. Simple carbohydrates are known as sugars or saccharides. The Latin term saccharum means sugar, and the ending of the names of the most of the sugars is O's. For example, glucose, which is the principal sugar in blood, fructose, which is a sugar in fruits and honey, sucrose, which is the ordinary table sugar, maltose, which is the malt sugar. Carbohydrates are classified as either sugars or polysaccharides. Sugars are monosaccharides or disaccharides. Monosaccharides are single sugar units that include glucose, fructose, galactose. Disaccharides are double sugar units that include sucrose, maltose, and lactose. Polysaccharides are either they are storage carbohydrates such as glycogen and starch. Animal cells store glucose as glycogen and plant cells store glucose as starch. Coming to structural carbohydrates, cellulose and chitin are important structural carbohydrates. Cellulose forms the fabric of many cell walls, and chitin is the major component of the exoskeleton of many arthropods. According to the number of the sugar molecules, the carbohydrates are simpler carbohydrates such as monosaccharides with a single unit, disaccharides with two units, complex carbohydrates such as oligosaccharides with 3 to 10 units, polysaccharides with more than 10 units, glycogen, starches, and fibers. Monosaccharides are single sugar units that form the building blocks for the larger carbohydrates. There are many different monosaccharides. They vary according to the number of carbon atoms that they possess and in the way the atoms are arranged in the molecules. Glucose, the main source of energy for most organisms, is a hexose sugar with 6 carbon atoms and the formula is C6H12O6. Glucose exists in both straight chain and in ring form, with rings forming when glucose is dissolved in water. Here in this picture, you can observe the chain structure as well as the ring structure of the glucose. Here in this picture, the straight chain representation of the glucose molecule shows how the carbon atoms are numbered. Glucose is common with many other hexose sugars, has an aldehyde group as part of the structure. The carbon atom that forms part of the aldehyde group is always carbon 1. The carbon atom of the carbonyl group is referred to as the anomeric carbon atom, and for glucose this is carbon 1. The carbonyl group has reducing properties such that all monosaccharides are reducing sugars. The remainder of the molecule is a series of bonded carbon atoms with attached hydrogen atoms and hydroxyl groups. Disaccharides are sugars composed of two monosaccharides covalently bonded together by a glycosidic linkage. Glycosidic linkage is a type of covalent bond that connects a carbohydrate to another group, which can be another carbohydrate or a non-carbohydrate molecule. The glycosidic linkage is formed through a condensation reaction through loss of water between the anomeric carbon of one sugar and a hydroxyl group of another molecule. Maltose, also known as malt sugar, is formed from the two glucose molecules. Lactose or milk sugar is a disaccharide formed when the monosaccharides glucose and galactose bond. Sucrose is common household sugar and is formed when the monosaccharides glucose and fructose bonded together. Benedict's test is a chemical test used to detect the presence of reducing sugars such as glucose, fructose, lactose, and maltose in a solution. The test is based on the ability of reducing sugars to reduce copper sulfate to copper oxide, which forms the colored precipitate. The procedure of the Benedict test includes the adding Benedict's reagent, which contains copper sulfate, sodium carbonate, and sodium citrate to the test sample. Then heating the mixture in a boiling water bath for 2 to 5 minutes. Then observing the color change. If the test tube is blue in color, then there is no reducing sugar present. If the material turns to green, there is trace amount of reducing sugar. If the material turns to yellow, then there is low concentration of reducing sugar. If the color is orange, moderate concentration of the reducing sugar. If the color is brick red, then there is high concentration of the reducing sugar. Glucose, fructose, lactose, maltose, and galactose are reducing sugars which give a positive Benedict's test, whereas sucrose is a non-reducing sugar which gives a negative Benedict's test unless it is treated with acid to break it into glucose and fructose. Sugars reduce the Benedict solution when the anomeric carbon atom is made available to reduce the copper ions in the solution. The anomeric carbon atom is the carbon of the carbonyl group present in the straight chain form of the sugar. The anomeric carbon atom for fructose is carbon 2. Fructose is a ketose sugar and bonds to glucose to form sucrose. Coming to maltose, when maltose is boiled with Benedict's reagent, the region of the ring containing the anomeric carbon atom, that is carbon 1, may open, exposing a carbonyl group capable of reducing Benedict's reagent. Only an anomeric carbon atom that is not involved in the formation of the glycosidic bond may be exposed. Coming to polysaccharides, polysaccharides are large polymers of the monosaccharides. Unlike monosaccharides and disaccharides, polysaccharides are either insoluble or form colloidal suspension. The principal storage polysaccharides are starch and glycogen. Starch is a polymer of alpha glucose and is in fact a mixture of two different polysaccharides, amylose and amylopectin. Amylose is a long unbranched chain of glucose units. Amylopectin is a highly branched polymer of glucose units. There are different types of polysaccharides. Storage polysaccharides, which store energy that can be broken down when needed. Starch and glycogen are storage polysaccharides. Starch, which can be seen in plants, made of amylose, which is unbranched, and amylopectin, which is branched. Glycogen can be seen in animals, which is highly branched structure stored in liver and muscles for quick energy release. Coming to structural polysaccharides, they provide the strength and support to cells and organisms. Cellulose and chitin are structural polysaccharides. Cellulose in plants made of beta glycosidic bonds, which forms the plant cell walls and is indigestible by humans. Chitin, which is seen in fungi and arthropods, similar to cellulose but contains N-acetyl glucosamine, found in fungal cell walls and insect exoskeletons. Modified polysaccharides. These have additional functional groups. Peptidoglycan, found in bacterial cell walls, provides structural integrity. Hyaluronic acid, found in connective tissues, which lubricates the joints. Coming to properties of polysaccharides, they are insoluble in water. They are not sweet tasting. They can be branched or unbranched. Starch is the carbohydrate reserve of plant cells, which is the most important dietary source for higher animals, including man. It is found in cereals, potatoes, legumes, roots, tubers, and vegetables. Glucose is stored as glycogen in large amounts in both the liver and skeletal muscles. Cellulose is one of the most important structural polysaccharides as it is the major component of plant cell walls. Cellulose is a polymer of beta glucose units where each glucose molecule is inverted with respect to its neighbor. Here, 1 to 4 beta glycosidic bond can be seen. The orientation of the beta glucose units places many hydroxyl groups on each side of the molecule. Many parallel chains of beta glucose units form, and each chain forms hydrogen bonds between the hydroxyl groups of adjacent chains. With regard to structural polysaccharides, the bundles of parallel chains forming hydrogen bonds with each other create a molecule that confers rigidity and strength to the structures of which they form a part. The rigidity and strength of the plant cell walls is a consequence of the incorporation of cellulose into their structure. Chitin forms the exoskeleton of insects and crustaceans. Chitin forms the fabric of fungal cell walls. Chitin is a structural polysaccharide. Chitin is the second most abundant carbohydrate polymer of N-acetyl glucosamine. Chitin is present in the cell wall of fungi and in the exoskeletons of crustaceans, insects, and spiders. Chitin is used commercially in coatings, which extends the shelf life of fruits and meats. Marine polysaccharides are complex carbohydrates derived from marine organisms such as seaweeds, crustaceans, and marine bacteria. They have diverse biological functions and applications in biomedicine, food, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals due to their bioactivity and biocompatibility. Alginate is seen in seaweeds, carrageenan seen in red algae, chitin and chitosan seen in crab, shrimp cells, fucoidan seen in seaweeds and sea cucumber. The foods such as agave, apple, pear, mango, honey, and soda are rich in net fructose. Coming to carbohydrates, which are better for the health, whether the simple carbohydrates or the complex carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates are simple sugars and are easily digested by the body. Complex carbohydrates are rich in fiber and starches, and the digestion is slower. Simple carbohydrates are easily digested and they do not provide long term energy. They are usually not accompanied by any real nutrients. They increase your blood sugar, leaving you craving more. Whereas complex carbohydrates, they have long lasting energy. They are found in nutrient dense foods such as beans, sweet potato, etc. They provide a sustained source of energy and they aid in fat loss. It is better to eat vegetables, fruits, dairy, legumes, and whole grains, and it is better to leave refined grains and sugar. Whereas the benefits include the providing of energy, getting fiber, getting needed vitamins and minerals, along with the serotonin, which boosts the mood, sleep, appetite, and overall well being. Low serotonin levels are linked to depression, anxiety, and sleep disturbances. Thank you, one and all. Please subscribe to my channel.